Did you know the difference between a Roth and traditional IRA comes down to how it's taxed? I like to break it down really simply in this illustration of an umbrella. As I always tell my clients, why do we use an umbrella? Well, quite simply, it's to protect us from the rain. But instead of rain, this is going to represent taxes. In a way, a traditional IRA, and by the way, this is going to be an umbrella, this is going to be an IRA. If we look at a traditional IRA, we have $1 out here. If it's in our paycheck, or however we're getting this dollar coming to us as income, it's getting rained on or it's getting taxed. We throw it underneath that umbrella, the rain stops or the taxes stop, so the full dollar essentially goes in. You can invest it in different things inside this IRA. Once it's invested, let's pretend it grew to $10. When you go to pull it back out of this IRA, the taxes are going to start, or the rain's going to start. It's going to get wet. Well, the question always becomes, how much in taxes? Let's pretend you're in a 15% bracket. I like easy math. That's $8.50. If you're 20%, it's going to be $8. As opposed to a Roth IRA, where you have $1 comes in your paycheck, you don't get the full dollar. What I mean by that is you got to pay taxes on that money. It's after-tax money. So let's pretend you were in a 15% bracket. That means only 85 cents would go into this. Now, if that 85 cents grew over time, and since we went from $1 to $10, let's go from 85 cents to $8.50, because it's the same investment inside of here. Now, all of a sudden, when we go to pull that $8.50, it's actually worth $8.50. Why is this important? Because I hear it all the time, Greg, which one's better, traditional or Roth? And my answer to that is, when's the rain going to be harder? In other words, are we paying more in taxes now? Or are we paying more in taxes later? And that's the answer. Well, guess what? You need a crystal ball to figure that out. And that's what we do in financial plans. We try to project this, knowing what we know now. And as things like tax law changes and your life changes, we're going to update this. But we have to make a reasonable assumption. Traditionally, and this is speak with a broad brush, which one's going to be more favorable? The younger you are, the more favorable a Roth is going to be. So if I'm in my 20s, I'm probably in a lower tax bracket. The rain's lower here. There's a bell curve for this. As you start to get older and closer to your retirement, usually 10 years before retirement, you're making more money than you did when you were maybe 5 years into work. So that means the rain's a little bit harder over here. That's going to favor traditional. You can't get it perfect, but we do want to make an informed decision to understand which is better for traditional or Roth. I will tell you, I have recommended traditionals for 30-year-olds, and I've recommended Roths for 30-year-olds. I've recommended traditional for 50-year-olds, and I've recommended Roths for 50-year-olds. Why? Because financial planning looks at every area of your life. It's not just about the income equation. It's about how much you've accumulated, what type of assets you've accumulated that are all going to impact your tax situation in the future. We want to make a projection of the future. So, difference between traditional, that money is going to be pre-tax money. Technically, with a traditional IRA, we call that tax deductible, but it's money that taxes aren't paid on. Roth is going to be after-tax money. When we go to pull traditional out, we're going to pay income taxes on it. Over here, it's tax-free. There's a lot more to this. There's other ways you can get money out of some of these accounts and pay taxes. Right? There's some rules around the Roth, rules for traditional, but that's for another time. If you want help decide between a Roth and traditional and understand it more, we'd love to talk to you.